My guest is Reverend Jesse Lee Peterson, author of a new book called The Antidote, Healing America from the Poison of Hate, Blame, and Victimhood. Jesse Lee, let's go back just a minute. Now, when you said you reconciled with your father, are you talking about your biological father?
Yes, my biological father. He and I became father and son, and, you know, growing up, I used to wonder, what is it like to have a father? What does that feel like? Because I couldn't tell what it felt like to have a father. And I have to tell you, Larry, once I forgave my dad and he and I became father and son, there is no relationship like a father and son relationship. And this is for boys and girls. It's like it completes you. It makes you whole. It's like the thing that was missing has been replaced. And then you can move on in life. I literally have no anger in my heart for anyone. I don't hate anyone. I don't take life personally when people attack me. And I've been called cool, Uncle Tom, the so-called N-word. I've had guns drawn on me. Not a day go by when I don't get a threat. But I now realize that those people are angry and they have not had good parents to guide them, and they're taking their anger out on me, and that it's not personal. They literally can't see what they're doing.
That's exactly how I feel. People often ask me, Reverend Lee, why is it, Larry, you don't get mad when people call you all these names? That would be like getting mad at a dog that's been trained to attack.
Yeah.
You get mad at the trainer, but you don't get mad at the dog. And what the left has done is taught black people, you are a victim. I call them victocrats, and every victocrat needs a victimizer. And the victimizers are these people over here, whether it's white conservatives or black conservatives or Uncle Toms or what have you. And by the way, we Democrats are the salvation. We're your savior. We come in on the white horse. So it's what I call the brainwashed trifecta. You're a victim. Those guys are victimizers. We're your savior. This is what these people have been taught. So why get angry at them?
That's right. And in the antidote, I clearly lay that out, thanks to God. And I give good examples of that. The first chapter is on Michael Brown and his life, Larry. Mike and Trayvon Martin, those two guys never had a chance. With Michael Brown, for an example, his father and mother separated, and the father tried to go and pick his son up, but the mother was angry at him, and she just gave the father hell. She made it so impossible for him to pick his son up that he would have to send someone else over there to get him at her house. And then Michael eventually moved to his father's house, but the father's life was unstable, and Michael couldn't stay there, so he ended up at his grandmother's house. And when he moved there, she had no authority over him because by that time his life was out of control. He was so angry. And so Michael grew up with a void in his life, feeling unloved, feeling that no one really cared about him. And that's why he became a bully in the manner that he did. And the same thing with Trayvon Martin down in Florida. His parents split up, and he had to raise himself. And that's why he started to call himself a gangster. And so when those two guys were killed, instead of the race hustlers looking at that home life to see where that anger started, in order to teach these young people they need to forgive so the cycle will stop, they say that it's the white man, that is racism. And they've said that for so long now that some blacks or most blacks are not looking at the home life. They're not forgiving their parents so God can forgive them and they can have peace and move on in life. And I call these people the alchemists. They come in and pretend that they're going to save black Americans and they want to help them, but they're really using them in that fallen state of anger to gain power and wealth for themselves. Because when a person is free, when they are a man or woman of character, you can't control them. You can only control an immoral or demoral person, and you can't control a moral person. So that's why the race hustlers been keeping them in that position of anger, because they don't want them to see what's going on.
My guest is Reverend Jesse Lee Peterson. The book is called The Antidote, Healing America from the Poison of Hate, Blame, and Victimhood. Another thing, Jesse Lee, that people don't appreciate, you mentioned Michael Brown. This is a big guy.
Yes.
So you're talking about a kid who does not have good moral grounding, who physically cannot be controlled. Once you get to be 11, 12, 13 years old, what is the mother or the grandmother going to say to a kid like that? I'm going to punish you. I'm going to make you stay inside. He's physically too big and too strong for her, which is one of the reasons why you need a father, just for the physical presence in the home.
That's right. The father has a strength and a natural respect that when the father speaks, the boys and the girls, the kids listen to the father. Whereas when they become a certain age, they know that they can overtake their mothers and grandmothers, so they don't pay a lot of attention to them at all. And you're right. That's why it's ordained that the man and the woman have children together, and they both raise the kids because the kids need both parents. For a quick example is Barack Obama. Wait until you read about Barack Obama's life. Even though he had a white mother, his mother hated white Americans. She blamed America for the destruction of black people, and she taught that to Barack Obama. His grandmother had a negative experience or encounter with a black man, and she overreacted to that, and whenever she spoke of black people, it gave Barack Obama the impression that she hated black people. And Barack Obama was in the 8th grade. His father came in from Kenya to Hawaii, and he spoke to Barack Obama's 8th grade class, and he too talked about America being a racist society and that Africa was a racist society. So it caused Barack Obama to start hating white Americans as well. And Barack Obama has a void and an emptiness because he did not get the love of his father. The worst thing, Larry, that can happen to children is to not have the love of a father, because it leaves an emptiness and you start looking elsewhere for love. And if you notice, Barack Obama is in bed with Black Lives Matter, Louis Farrakhan, Al Sharpton, and all of those radical black groups, because he identified with them, and they didn't have good fathers growing up either. So they're all angry and empty, and so they get in bed together to fight against white Americans in an attempt to redistribute power and wealth, thinking that that's going to make them feel better, but it doesn't.
Reverend, when we come back, we're going to talk about the father or the upbringing of Jesse Jackson, of Al Sharpton, and of Louis Farrakhan.
Yes.
I read Obama's autobiography, Dreams from My Father, and in that book, Jesse Lee, Obama fell in love with a white girl, and he deeply was in love with her, and his family embraced him. She was very well off. They accepted him. And he broke up with her in large part because he did not want to, quote, be a sellout, close quote.
Yeah.
I believe that was always his real first true love, even more so than Michelle. So mentally, this guy grew up all messed up. Yeah. We're going to come back, Jesse Lee. The book, again, it's called The Antidote, Healing America from the Poison of Hate, Blame, and Victimhood. My guest is Reverend Jesse Lee Peterson. His website is rebuildingtheman.com. His email address is bond, like James Bond, at bondinfo.org. Please don't leave town. I'm Larry Elder. Larry Elder here. We continue our conversation with Reverend Jesse Lee Peterson. The Antidote is the name of the book. The subtitle is Healing America from the Poison of Hate, Blame, and Victimhood. Jesse Lee, we were talking about prominent so-called black leaders. I always preface it by saying so-called black leaders.
Right.
And we're talking about Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton and Farrakhan. And real quickly, Jesse Jackson was raised in South Carolina, and his teenage mother was impregnated by the married man who lived next door. And when Jesse Jackson was raised, kids would taunt him, Jesse ain't got no daddy, Jesse ain't got no daddy. In the case of Sharpton had a very nice middle-class background until his father abandoned the family, and then down to the ghetto and into Harlem. In the case of Farrakhan's mom was divorced from her husband, had a boyfriend, but took back up with the father, didn't tell the boyfriend, got pregnant, and tried to abort who became Farrakhan with a coat hanger. So all three of these men had very troubled relationships, if a non-existent relationship, with their own biological fathers. And surprise, surprise, they became very, very angry men, and they are, in my opinion, spreading that anger over the whole country.
That's right. And wait until you read about Muhammad Ali, Malcolm X, and others in the book. And I write this book, The Antidote, because I do want people to, and even though I write about black Americans, anyone who reads the book can really relate to it. They're going to see these issues in their own families, because this is not about color. It's a spiritual thing. It's a warfare between good and evil, right versus wrong. While on break there, I wanted to tell you, Larry, that when I was growing up in Alabama, black Americans didn't have leaders. They had fathers and mothers and grandfathers and grandmothers, and they were a moral people for the most part. And as I said earlier, you can't control a moral people. You have to demoralize them in order to control them. And so these race hustlers, because they're on the side of evil, they know that as long as they can keep black Americans angry, they can keep them blaming. And when you blame someone else, they know that they can keep them angry. And as long as they keep them angry, they know that black Americans are going to be blaming someone else for their problems. And when you blame someone else for your issue, Larry, you never get better in life. It's only when you realize, I have this anger in my heart, I need to let it go. And for the most part, it starts with my parents first. And then once you forgive and God forgive you, life begins. It's like a brand new life start for you. And you see things differently. You can overcome any challenge or any issue in life. And that's how it was when I saw the adults growing up. But once the civil rights movement started and Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated, Jesse Jackson and the race hustlers took over. They turned love into hate, and they did it intentionally. It wasn't by accident. They knew exactly what they were doing. Look at how Barack Obama has separated the races since being in the White House in the last almost 8 years now, like no other person in the history of America. He didn't unite. He divided, and he did it because he believes in the redistribution of wealth. He believes in black liberation theology, and the only way that he can get this done, he have to keep black people angry so that they can keep blaming white folks to keep this mess going between the races. Because once we unite as Americans, then the enemies of good cannot come in to control the people. This book, The Antidote, Larry, is a book that I have wanted to write for the last 20 years, and I'm so grateful that God has given me the opportunity to write it, and the feedback that I'm getting from all races of people is overwhelming.
My guest is Reverend Jesse Lee Peterson. Again, the book is called The Antidote. Jesse Lee, now, there is a political reason for all of this, and it preceded Barack Obama, and that is they want that monolithic 95% black vote without which the Democratic Party cannot survive. As recently as 1956, almost 40% of blacks voted for the Republican Party. That shocks people. You have people like Debbie Wasserman Schultz, the chairwoman of the DNC, current chairwoman, who said the Republicans, quote, want to drag us back to Jim Crow. You've got people like Charlie Rangel still there, who said about George W. Bush, he is our Bull Connor. We're supposed to forget that Bull Connor was a Democrat, the public superintendent of safety in Birmingham, Alabama, who turned dogs and water hoses on these black civil rights workers. Now, why would he want us to get the impression that George W. Bush is our Bull Connor? For votes. As long as we hate the Republican Party, we got that 95% monolithic black vote without which they cannot succeed. My guest is Jesse Lee Peterson. Jesse, please don't leave town. We're going to talk about your chapter called The Absent Black Father Myth, because a lot of people are pushing back on the idea that the problem is the absence of black fathers, and you push back on the pushback in your book. Don't leave town.